Welcome to Between Two Pastries, a not-so-typical nutrition podcast. Nicole and Annie are licensed and registered dietitians. Join them as they discuss hot nutrition topics, challenge popular beliefs, and have a blast doing it. Here are your hosts, Nicole and Annie.
Welcome to Between Two Pastries. This is Nicole.
Hey everyone, it's Annie.
So our topic today is around events in food. And really the angle we're kind of going at is a lot of people really struggle with not having the ability to adapt to the environment that they're around.
They have no ability.
What we're also saying too is that even though some people will say they don't have food fears, it kind of shows that people can have food fears, right? Because if there isn't a choice that they would consider healthy, I'm kind of saying that in quotes because we don't like that term anyway.
Right.
That some people would either just get mad and choose not to eat, not to partake.
Well, yeah, but I see, and again, there's lots of different ways people can react with this type of stuff. What I see more often than not is this nose raised, I don't eat that.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
Whether it's, and if we're talking about sports events, it's that upsets my stomach. Or it's, I don't eat this particular way. Therefore, it's kind of this martyr, therefore I won't eat at all. That's my only other option. So I know that sounds really dramatic, and perhaps my work day is influencing my feels right now, but that is where what I think I see a lot more is people choosing to not eat at all when there is plenty of variety out there for them to choose to eat.
That makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense. But that also sounds like disordered eating in and of itself if they want to keep themselves in this box in trying to remain safe. To me, there's another disconnect with self and the ability to be okay with eating differently every now and again.
And I feel like a broken record, but we continue to say people don't even know that what they're doing is disordered.
Yes, exactly. That's exactly it. Because in their mind, they're just being, like you just said, they're just being like, oh gosh, I really never eat like that, but instead of just saying, I guess that this is what we have today and this is just what it'll be and it'll be fine. It's this whole, like, all of this emotion comes up for them, right? Or this anxiety, or all of a sudden their stomach tightens because of what their brain is telling them. And
Right. How about this example? So Nicole, you're on vacation.
Yeah.
With relatives or friends, whatever. You're with people.
Sure.
And you're like, oh my God, I love this restaurant. I'm going to order, a fish fry. Okay. So you ask the person who you're with, friend, family, whatever. Hey, do you want a fish fry? And they say, no, I can't eat that. Okay, so you order a fish fry and you're the only one in the party who decides to eat.
Sure.
Everyone else decides they're going to either eat somewhere else or they can't eat a fish fry.
Wow.
And while you're eating, someone in the group is just staring at your plate of food.
Is this an experience you've had, Annie?
This happens to me
all the time.
I was doing a podcast with another, I was on a podcast and they ordered food for all of us. And I had to watch a guy sit and watch others eat a particular, I won't even say what it is because I know people listen.
Yeah.
Eat food that he was choosing not to eat because he doesn't eat that way.
Yeah.
And I ate the food. It was delicious.
Right.
And just side note, haven't gained weight or nothing bad happened. But then 2 hours later into the podcast, he had multiple of that item that was out that we all just had one of and enjoyed.
Right.
But I can't tell you how often people that I'm with stare at what I'm eating because they want it, or at least that's how it appears. Like you're staring at someone's plate of food instead of just ordering the food that you want or eating the food that you desire, where, no, I don't eat that way.
Well, but that's the whole thing. And so even with that example of that gentleman, whether he can admit it or not, he had a real food fear there.
Oh yeah.
And really putting a food on a pedestal, or I can't do this, or it will make me weak if I do. But then instead of just having one and being like, oh, I haven't had that in a while, that was great, he had 5 or whatever, right?
But
Or
the
this
diet that
person,
he follows or followed,
correct.
I don't know if he still is following,
Sure.
didn't allow him to eat that food.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
Well, of course you're gonna sit and stare
Go
at the wall.
crazy about it. Right. Exactly. That's the whole thing. I think one of the points that I really wanted to make that I don't know why people really don't believe this, but the thing is that nothing bad happens.
Correct.
Like nothing bad happens. That's what we talk about. Like it's so important to engage in balance. And when we're talking about balance, yes, we're talking about nutrient balance. We're talking about texture balance. We're talking about even emotional eating balance. Right. What I mean by that, because somebody else would be like, oh, well, we're not supposed to eat because of our emotions. And it's sort of like, yeah, and at the same time,
it's okay.
If you're
I do
not,
it sometimes.
yeah, if you're not saying like, oh, I really have a taste for macaroni and cheese because I'm feeling nostalgic right now. Like that's what I mean by that, right? Or I do feel sad and I do want some ice cream. Okay,
I mean, I'll use myself as an example.
Sure.
Last night, I just wanted something crunchy and salty and snacky. And what did I do? I went and grabbed something crunchy and salty and snacky.
Sure.
And I became full and I was like, I'm really enjoying this. It's hitting the spot. I know I don't need more. Sure. However, I want more and I'm going to be okay with that decision.
Yes.
That's okay. Guess what? I didn't get on the scale, gain weight, whatever. I'm not gonna worry about it. And the less worry you apply to this realm of life, the less issues mentally, physically, weight, all of that stuff is just not going to be there.
It will not be there. It will not be there. I'm just reinforcing that. And that's what people won't allow themselves to do. And so then this force becomes so strong in them. And then that's when the disordered behavior happens, where then it's the binging, it's the closet eating, it's the restricting so much until they either binge or they fall into anorexia because they've developed this inability to feed themselves at all because of fear around everything.
Right.
So that's the whole point. And that is part of being balanced, Annie, what you just said. I think there's this fear of, number one, people will say, if I start, I won't be able to stop. Guess what? You will.
You will.
You will. If you haven't allowed yourself in a year, 2, 3 years, 4 months, whatever that is, it may take you a little longer to stop.
Right.
But if you remain in your body, and what I mean by that is really being present to what you're experiencing versus being stuck in your head of, I shouldn't, you will be able to stop. Right. So that's where it is, where it's like, if people can just connect long enough to allow them to experience the experience. I mean, I even feel like there's fear around, I can't like that food.
Well, and I can't like going places.
Yeah, well, that's cool.
I have to pack my lunch or my dinner, or what restaurants are there, or what's the menu look like. And I get it. You have allergies. I get it. Whatever.
Yes, that's a different thing.
I don't think we can talk about this and talk about eating sometimes as it relates to our feelings without talking about how feelings come from hormones.
Yeah, that too.
Right? Like,
and if your hormones are off, it's because there's an imbalance somewhere of what you're not getting enough of, which is probably what you're craving.
Hormones play a role in all of this. It's and to react or respond to different hormone changes that we have. And again, this isn't about looking at a calendar. This isn't about being a lady. Men go through this crap too. The change in hormones.
Precisely.
Like, it's just simply like Nicole said, knowing your body.
Yeah.
The more internal you are,
Yes.
the better off you'll be. But unfortunately, majority of people are calories and writing it down and this and that and this menu and that. Dude, just listen to your body.
Yes.
But they don't know how to do that. And this is a conversation I continue to have with
I agree.
Everyone who contacts me about anything, past clients, whatever. Always the retort is, I don't know how to eat without counting calories, without counting macros, without writing it down, without weighing my food.
That sounds really scary.
I don't know how to eat. What is that like? And it's like, wow, okay. So obviously we do our process, but the switching gears back to what we were talking about, the amount of people who get so anxious or struggle with, hey, do you want to go get brunch? Oh, well, I ate an hour ago. Who cares? Who cares?
Mm-hmm.
It's okay. Go get brunch. And maybe that means you just have coffee and a pastry or coffee.
Well, that's just it.
Like,
It doesn't mean you have to eat a whole meal. It means you listen to your body.
Right.
The whole
just
point
because
is
someone
that
else is doing it.
That's right. I totally agree with you. I completely agree with you.
The state fair is coming up and the cream puff is something your kids really enjoy. Great. But don't sit and stare at the cream puff wishing that you could eat it. You can. And guess what? If it's that anxiety provoking, why don't you just have a bite then?
I agree with you.
Or half.
I agree.
Granted, that's creating rules and compromising, but at the same time, maybe that's what.
But in order to get you to be okay with eating a cream puff,
Right.
maybe that's what it requires.
Right. So it's frustrating. And if we take a look at this from the realm of sports,
yeah,
we have in the running, the triathlon, all of the different worlds of sports, you can speak to baseball. And I would even throw out, we know enough about the basketball with their whole situation, given their chef is also a dietitian, something we're familiar with. And obviously running, we know all about this. But when athletes show up to events, it's amazing how they can eat all of the foods that they are avoiding most days of the week, or they can't eat any of it because of whatever, GI distress,
right,
this or that.
Right.
And I think it's important for people to realize what your role is with actual professional sports as it relates to football, baseball, basketball.
Yeah.
The facility in Colorado for track and, USA runners, because it's not restricting.
Correct.
It's not eating.
Correct.
Those guys eat a lot.
They do.
And they go out to eat.
They do.
They eat at restaurants quite regularly, and their muscle mass isn't changing.
Right.
Right. And I don't care if people want to argue with me that, well, they're 200 pounds and 6'5" or whatever. It doesn't, they're eating for their body just as much as you should be eating for your body.
Correct.
That still means you're eating. When I go to a running event and someone is taking shots of alcohol instead of eating, and then coming back and complaining to me about how they were in, their gut got all wonky.
That's weird.
Really?
Yeah.
You want to pay me to tell you that answer?
Sure. Yeah.
When your gut gets wonky as it relates to running, generally it's an electrolyte disruption.
For sure.
It could be weather, it could be fluids. There's lots of reasons why electrolytes get all wonky.
For sure.
You have to eat.
Yeah. That's just it, though.
The only way to get the electrolytes in. It's just ridiculous.
I know. The main piece here that continues to drive this whole thing is there's still an underlying famine going on for a lot of people.
Oh, huge. Yeah.
And because when you have these thoughts all the time about food, you're in a famine.
Right.
You're in some sort of famine, and someone will argue probably and be like, yeah, but look at my weight, or it's like, no.
It's not about weight.
We have got to let this go.
Health is not about weight.
Your body is destined to be at some weight where it feels comfortable at, and it will fight to remain there. That is all there is. Right. The more you fight it to keep it in a different place, the more in a famine of some sort you're going to end up being, the more stress is going to create on your body, and the more actual real disease is going to come about, starting with thyroid and endocrine, typically. Or I
which
should
are
say,
kind of quiet
they are.
things that you.
Yeah, they are. They don't just hit.
No.
Yeah. It takes a little bit. And I say thyroid and endocrine, I could almost argue and say GI may start first. It's hard to know. Everybody's going to be a little different regardless. When we also talk about disease, I don't know, having constant anxiety is kind of a disease, right? Because
Very
it
much
makes you
so.
feel very not at ease, right? You can't relax. Do you know what I'm saying?
Right.
So it's important that we see this, that this is what it is. And we're talking about famine. I'm talking about real nutrient famine, number one, right?
Well, yeah, right.
It can be calorie famine, absolutely. I mean, I don't think people realize like our bodies really need calories, but we're so afraid of it.
A lot.
But we're so afraid of it. And so
Well,
by that suppression, we create more issue than anything else.
Right. And then, but I think the hardest part for me is then you start seeing people blaming food for the GI problem, the endocrine problem, this problem. And it's like, oh my God,
But that's why I say that. Yeah, that's why I say that. Like GI could be first because of the fact that when we aren't getting what we need or when we're not even eating or all these other things, that GI is one of the first things that people will start complaining about then if they do eat something. Absolutely.
I don't know how much more you want to get into this, but as kind of a funny aside, I had a patient a few years ago, and maybe I've told this story where he needed to go out and eat dessert, like he needed to have that experience, right? That event or whatever. And I tried to challenge him like, hey, well, just think if it was, you and your, nephew or your little cousin going out and eating cupcakes together. Let's start there. I don't have a little nephew or a cousin. You know what I mean? And I always remember that because even someone like those are the excuses people think are valid.
Yeah.
As to why we don't, and it was totally hypothetical.
Sure.
Like, hey, don't you want to do this with your little cousin and really impress them? And I don't have one. Like we can't even embrace the hypothetical enjoyment of food. And that I think to me not only is comical, but it's also like, this is how far gone people are.
Yeah.
Is we like fake food is anxiety provoking.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And when fake food is anxiety provoking, or you feel it's on a pedestal, or it makes you kind of get that like, oh, what am I going to do?
Right.
All of the feels. A, it's time to talk to someone, but B, you have a poor relationship with food, and you need to. Do you know how rewarding it is to be able to go places and not think about food?
Oh yeah.
You just walk up to hey, we're hungry. Oh, look, a stand. Let's walk up there and see what they have.
Sure. Absolutely. Absolutely.
That's how life should be.
Yeah. Well, and the thing is your body knows everything. It knows exactly what it needs. It knows how much it needs. And so I know that there's also overwhelm with, I'm not going to eat all that. Well, then don't. You don't have to. Just because there is a plate of food in front of you doesn't mean you have to finish it. What's important, though, is that you also let go of the outcome and just be in the moment.
Right.
And it's like you eat until your body says, I feel good. I'm done.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And then
that's what you
home or
right.
whatever.
That's what you do. So even when you go to that stand, like you're saying, Annie, you go to that stand, and even if there's something there that's maybe greasier than you're used to or whatever, so what? Your body will know, and your body will eat as much as it wants to and be done with it.
Right.
And sometimes that's going to be the whole damn thing.
Right.
And you're going to need to live with that.
Right. And don't worry that it's healthy, not healthy, right, wrong. I mean, because
it's not.
That mentality's got to end. And I know, again, we're a broken record, but like
we are. But the whole point of this is that there are so many things in our world that have created most of us to be overthinkers.
Right.
Instead of just be.
Right.
Just literally be and see what that experience is.
Right.
Instead of overthinking all of the things. I think what we're saying is go to events, do things, eat, right?
Right.
Be
Don't let food
connected.
stop you from
No.
life. Jesus.
Be connected.
Right.
Just be connected to your body. Your body knows how much it needs at any given time.
Right. And it's generally more than what your mind is telling you.
Ay, ay, ay.
Yeah.
All right. Make it a great day, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Have questions you want to hear discussed on the show? Find us on Facebook or visit betweentwopastries.com and drop us a line. Want to support the show? Find us on Patreon for exclusive content. If you love the show, find us on iTunes or your favorite podcast platform. Hit the subscribe button and leave us a review.